So at this point, I'm back home with my little boy. He had just gotten out of the PICU, and I don't know what to do at this point. I was working. I have a protective order on the father of my son, and now I'm back home with my little boy. He was in the care of someone I knew, so at this point I trusted absolutely no one to keep my son, but I needed to work. So I reached out to this lady that used to keep me when I was little, and she kept my son. She was a lifesaver, and I'm forever thankful for her. At this time, I got a real job, 8 to 5. I was working, taking care of my son while his father was in and out of jail because of drugs. During this time, we lived on the river, and I'm not sure if I said before or not, but we were having to boat in and out. And so I decided that was enough. We had way too much chaos, and nothing out there was positive. There was some good, but for the most part, it was time for me to go. So I packed everything up and I left. Went to my parents' house, spent Christmas there. My son's second Christmas. It was, again, supposed to be a happy time, but his father wasn't around due to drugs. And so it was hard. And I'm not sure if you've ever moved back in with your parents, but having a child, moving back in with your parents, them absolutely despising his father did not sit well. You know, I was already very protective of my son. I wasn't like a first-time mom before his head injury. After his head injury, I was a helicopter mom, and to this day, I'm still very protective of that head. Once you've experienced that, it's something you never forget. So I moved in with one of my friends, and she was working a night shift. We didn't have our own space. At this time, my son was a little over, he's about 1.5 years. And so moved in with her, but she was working nights, and we just didn't have our own space. So I moved in with another friend of mine until we could find a place of our own. And moved in, and she told me, save your money so you can find a place of your own. So that's what I did. We lived in a room. My son stayed in his pack and play. I stayed on a day bed. Again, we had nothing that was ours, but we made it work. Until I came home and there was a note on the door. My friend had not been paying rent. We had, I believe, 3 days to get out. I'm not sure how many days we had to get out, but guess what? I had nowhere to go. Reached out to another friend, and she said I could come and stay with her. She had a large house. She made a place of our own that we didn't have to share. It was going to be ours until I could save enough to get on our own. So for about 8 months, I say that my son and I were homeless. Definitely not living on the streets. We were not going without, but we didn't have a place of our own. Everything we had was inside my vehicle. My son would carry all his toys with him. He was a very happy kid, but you can tell he knew something was wrong or not right. And he carried all his little toys with him. I still have pictures of him holding his toys. We bought our home in August of 2009. And we made this our safe place. I vowed that I was going to protect this home, the 4 walls, anyone and everyone that entered this house. It was going to be peace. There was going to be no negativity. It was going to be our safe place. And it was. When my son and I moved in here, everything changed. Yes, we're still here 12 years later, our temporary home, but he started sleeping through the night. There was peace that just overwhelmed us because we got out of the chaos. And I know you're thinking, well, maybe you should have gotten out earlier. I still love my son's father with everything in me. I wanted to hate him and despise him for everything that he did to me and my son, but I couldn't. But I knew I had to protect myself, to take care of myself, and most importantly, take care of my son that was not old enough to do anything. At this point, he could talk finally, but still not knowing what happened with him with his head injury, I needed a safe place for us. And I created that safe place, and my son will tell you that, our house was a home. Our house was double what it is now, but it was home, and it was safe, and my son knew it, and we have created some of the greatest memories in this home. So during this time, there was just a lot of in and out of jail. And so many of you have asked, why was he in jail for so long? He wasn't in jail for 14 solid years, but he's been in and out of jail for 14 years. Some of those days were 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. His last day was 4 years. And so here we are. I'm a single mom. I'm raising my son while his father is in and out of jail. And I'm still trying to figure out, what do I do? So we've established a safe place and a place of peace, and another journey begins for the both of us.